Sarada's new Mangekyo ability, Ohirume, is one of the most broken abilities in this universe. It has the power to crush anyone under the weight of a black hole, due to its ability to manipulate gravity. This makes the ability hard to counter, thus being a tad bit overpowered. So today we're going to discuss the origins of this ability, what it does, and what her second Mangekyo ability might be. Now the first thing to note is that Ohirume is another name for the sun goddess known as Amaterasu, which was also confirmed in chapter 21. This shouldn't be confused with the ability known as Amaterasu, which refers to the black flames used by Itachi and Sasuke. All this means is that both abilities were inspired by the same goddess, not that this ability is a variant of the black flames. So in one instance, the powers of the sun goddess manifested as flames because of course the sun is very hot, and in this instance it manifested as the power of gravity since planets orbit the sun due to its strong gravitational pull. There's also instances where stars collapse into a black hole, which also pulls everything around it into it as it implodes. This is likely what Ohirume represents, since that is how Sarada was able to destroy Ryu. Speaking of Sarada, the powers of her Mangekyo seems to have different functions similar to Obito, whereas it is normally the case that an Uchiha possesses two separate abilities, one per dojutsu, as seen with Itachi having Amaterasu in one eye and Tsukiyomi in the other. The same with Sasuke, who possessed Amaterasu in his left eye and flame control in the right. Though after gaining the Rinnegan, Sasuke also gained the ability to use Amaterasu in his right eye for some reason, so apparently that isn't a set mechanic. Now Mr. Obito was a tad bit different since he possessed one ability with three different variants. The right eye allowed him to use a short-range version of Kami that gave him the ability to send people to the Kami dimension. It also had a second variant which allowed him to teleport aspects of his own body to the Kami dimension as well, which allowed him to phase through attacks in the real world. It also allowed him to teleport as well to different locations, so it's kind of a transportation jutsu in some aspects. Now the left eye, which Kakashi possessed, had a long-range version of Kami which allowed him to teleport people to the Kami dimension as well. So in this case, the user of the Mangekyo didn't have two distinct abilities, but instead multiple variants of the original. Now Sarada might be taking this route as well, since based on what took place in chapter 21, her right eye was able to use her ability in different ways. The first application of the ability was to form a black rotating sphere, similar to that of a black hole. The second application was seen when Ryu tried to attack her with his iron sand, which was then redirected towards the black sphere and absorbed. This usage of the ability doesn't seem to be passive, since Sarada had to later target Ryu for him to be drawn towards it, which was later backed up by Mitsuki when he pointed out that the gravitational pull was only being exerted upon Ryu, the iron sand, and Sarada herself. So it wasn't affecting him, Araya, nor any of the objects around them. So Sarada is able to choose what the gravity applies to. Now there is also a limitation placed on the ability, which is that Sarada can only apply the power to what she's able to perceive. This was shown when Ryu tried to attack her initially, but she was able to deflect it towards the sphere since the attack was in her direct line of sight. He then tried to attack her from her blind spot, and she had to look at the ability itself with her Sharingan in order to apply the effect onto it. So of course, if one has an ability she isn't able to perceive, she wouldn't be able to absorb it into the sphere. Speaking of absorption, the third application of the ability allows her to implode the sphere instead of simply absorbing matter into it. This is how she was able to destroy Ryu's entire body, showing attack potency greater than Boruto's Rasengan Uzehiko that was almost complete. That does put great strain on her body because her right eye started to bleed, and she then fell unconscious. I doubt this will happen every time she uses the ability. It's likely due to the fact that her body isn't used to the strain as yet. By the way, I did mention that Sarada was able to levitate using the ability as well, which implies that her gravity ability works independently of the spheres. In fact, Sarada was able to make Ryu himself levitate before pulling him towards it. And this is implied by the fact that Ryu didn't mention the force of the sphere pulling him when he was initially lifted into the air. It was only after he tried to anchor himself and Sarada used the extra force from the sphere to pull both Ryu and his sand. This means that Sarada has the power to reduce gravity's effect on anyone, including herself, without the pulling effect of the sphere, which is confirmed by Sarada herself floating without being pulled in. Now this ability will allow her to get the upper hand on anyone who doesn't have the ability to fly, since they will be able to properly utilize their speed to attack her or dodge her attacks. By the way, the inverse is also true as well. Sarada isn't just able to decrease gravity's effect on someone's body, but also increase it as well. This was shown when Ryu tried to escape the sphere by summoning a Clawgram and teleporting using the claw mark on its body. Sarada was able to stop him by increasing the gravitational pull on his body, as Ryu himself stated, to the point that he wasn't able to lift a single finger. This means that similar to Kaguya's gravity dimension, which allowed her to restrict one's movement, Sarada is able to manipulate gravity in that way as well. It also appears that Sarada is able to increase the size of the spheres, which coincides with the increase in gravity, since the one that killed Ryu seemed bigger than it was initially. Though it could be the case that they just looked smaller since they were far away, and then looked bigger since Ryu was now closer to it. This is also backed up by the fact that Sarada's body appears proportional to the size of the other spheres in this zoomed out panel, so maybe Sarada can or can't increase the size of them, we'll see. So in essence, Sarada's Mangekyo ability is similar to Pain's planetary devastation, which allows him to create a black sphere that attracts his target towards it, and then encases them using the rubble formed from the surrounding. Madara also displayed the ability to create multiple spheres at the same time, similar to Sarada once he gained the power of 6 paths. By the way, Pain was also able to fly using the power over gravity as well, and even applied the gravity to others as seen when he cooked Hinata by lifting her into the sky and slamming her into the ground. This seemed to be a different usage from his power to attract and repel, as he did neither of those things in that instance. This implies that Sarada's Mangekyo power is a variant of the Renegon's gravity-based ability, which is pretty insane. What I also found interesting about Sarada's Ohirume is the fact that Sarada's Mangekyo pattern appeared in the sky when she used it. This typically happens in Naruto when an Uchiha uses Genjutsu, which means that it isn't actually there. And since Ohirume isn't a Genjutsu, it does beg the question of why. Now you guys can tell me if I missed a moment in Naruto where this did happen, but all I could find is when Ada used Omnipotence. The ability took on the same design as Ada's Dojutsu, then expanded across the universe, which does imply some kind of connection to Sarada's ability. And since there's also a connection between Sarada's and Ada's Dojutsu pattern based on the flags used by the people on the moon, this might not be a stretch. Though it could be the case that it means nothing and was just added for a bit of flair. With that said, what about her second Mangekyo ability? As I pointed out, everything I just mentioned was used by Sarada's right Mangekyo. The ability to fly, create the spheres, attract people and objects towards them, negate and increase gravity, and even the power to implode the sphere akin to a black hole. All of this was done using just the right eye, as indicated by the panels which focused on that eye alone. So if that is the case, that means that Sarada has another Mangekyo ability, but what is it? Well, most assume that Sarada will have some healing ability similar to her mother Sakura, which might be possible, but I want to go a bit further. You see, I believe that Sarada's next ability will be time manipulation. This is based on the fact that the sun is deeply connected to the concept of time, since it is literally the basis for our 24-hour day. In fact, the sundials and calendars were created based on the sun's position, using its rising and setting to track time. So instead of healing, Sarada's next ability might be the power to use temporal lock and reversion. The first one, which is temporal lock, would allow Sarada to bookmark a specific moment in time, freezing all relevant data of a person, object, or scenario, including physical condition, chakra flow, and position. This lock per se acts like a temporal anchor, creating a snapshot of reality that Sarada can then refer back to at will. So it's not just a memory, it's a save point that transcends the traditional Genjutsu, influencing the real world. Now the second component, reversion, allows Sarada to forcibly return the locked subject to the exact state they were in when the temporal lock was set. This doesn't merely heal damages or revert movement, it undoes every change on every level, including mental alterations, injuries, or chakra depletion, effectively resetting that person's timeline back to a save point. So Sarada can trap opponents in loops, undo fatal injuries to allies, or restore battlefields to their pre-conflict states. This would of course be similar to Izanagi, which takes a snapshot of reality at any given moment, then allows one to reset things to how they were before any given event. So when Danzo activated Izanagi versus Sasuke, he took a snapshot of current Danzo, and when he got damaged, he was able to replace his current body with a snapshot that was taken before. The same thing with a random Uchiha that was able to revive his fallen comrades. He was able to do that since he took a snapshot of their current position before the ground collapsed. That then allowed him to reset their current state back to the state they were in before, which is why they all appeared in the exact same position they were in before falling. I go more in depth on the Sharingan ability in this video, so I suggest watching it after this one. Now of course, if Sarada does receive an ability such as this one, it has to cause heavy strain on her body and have a long cooldown period between uses, making timing and precision absolutely critical. This is how you'd be able to balance the ability without Sarada being too overpowered in battle, similar to what they did to Koto Matsukami, making it so that the ability can only be used once every 10 years, I think that's a bit too much. So in essence, Sarada's next ability would be kinda the opposite of Ohirume, which is that one destroys while the other one restores. Who knows, maybe this is how they save Yodo if they do decide to save Yodo. Now another possibility which I mentioned in my video on Sarada's Chokutome Mangekyo is that Sarada's ability to copy jutsus might be enhanced. This of course stems from the fact that Sarada was able to copy Sakura's chakra control itself, which is way crazier than copying hand signs or one's movements, which could have been a precursor to what her Mangekyo ability would be. So what if Sarada is able to copy Kekkei based abilities or maybe even Shinjutsu? That would be a crazy power buff which might be a bit too much. I can imagine Sarada using Tsukinai Kona Daikokuten, Future Sight, Daemon's Reflection, or even Omnipotence. Maybe that's how Sarada reverses Omnipotence by copying the ability and using it herself. Like, it's a strong possibility, but you know, it might be a bit too far, so let me know your thoughts on it in the comments. With that said, that's it for the video. If you guys liked it, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe. And also guys, if you want to learn more about Izanagi and Izanami, the video will be somewhere on the screen, or maybe I'll just put up something else. So just watch one or two of them when you're finished with this one. But yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.